Episode 482 of the TV Dudes, recorded April 11th, 2024. Ripley.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, April 11th. Furies on Netflix.
No.
Seriously? You know what? Fine. You do it.
Oh, don't mind if I do. Episode 482 of the TV Dudes, recorded April 11th. Chucky, motherfucker, he's back!
Oh yeah, this week we are talking about the return of our favorite immortal serial killer doll, Charles Lee Ray, better known as Chucky, in the sci-fi series Chucky.
Wrinkly Chuck returns.
Yes! We'll find out how old Chuckles is holding up now that he's,
Old.
Sorry. We'll find out how old Chuckles is holding up now that his god has forsaken him and he's aging in a doll body somehow.
But before all that, I'm Nick.
And I'm Les. And we're the TV Dudes.
This week on our social medias, we've been asking more of the tough questions, and y'all answered, so let's do the tune in with the TV Dudes. TV Dudes, tune in.
This week, we kept it simple. Best medical show. Go.
Oh, that was the only one we got for this
Oh,
week?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we kept it. I didn't want to mix it up. Just keeping it simple.
I don't care. I don't.
You love propaganda. You didn't get into docaganda.
Med shows. I watched Scrubs like everybody other person, and I watched House for like a minute until it didn't take long for me to realize that House was the show. I realized that shows will always revert back to the status quo, especially on a network. Of like season 2 of House was like, oh shit, there's a bunch of new residents but they're gonna be replaced and immediately gone after we're
eventually gonna shake it up. No,
not as much. Like Dexter really cemented that for me as well. But I never watched Grey's Anatomy or even ER or anything like that. So I don't really have an opinion on what the best for me. It's Scrubs just because that was the one I watched.
Let's see. Dennis McIlwain weighed in with an unexpected entry, Children's Hospital.
Okay.
Like, man, it's a medical show. He says each episode was short, funny, gloriously shot in Brazil where it was filmed. Added bonus was that it wasn't overly sentimental. No, I wouldn't say Children's Hospital was overly sentimental. No. I agree with Danny Doggett. Scrubs is the only one that the doctors seem to laugh with. Got legendary cameos from TV legends, movie stars on the rise. Of all the soft boy characters on TV, JD was the least annoying, and he was homeless weirdly often. This is both true. His friendship with Turk was the highlight of the show, and somehow wasn't cringe about it. We love Elliot so much, and we don't even think about how conservative she really is. And it got consistent investment in the relationships. Carla and Turk is the real power couple. Move aside, Lily and Marshall. Even the extra season spinoff isn't terrible.
Is Elliot conservative, or is it just her actress?
I actually haven't looked into that, and I'm scared.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched Scrubs.
I don't know if Sarah Chalk. Is that her name? Sarah Chalk? Yeah.
I mean, I think most people recognize her from her work on Rick and Morty as Beth.
Ah, that's right. And of course, we got Alec Miracle weighed in with House. Pure and simple.
Sure.
He said he particularly liked seasons 4, 5, and 6. Due for a rewatch, but he felt that was when the show peaked. I think season 4 is when they add all the applicants that he just assigns numbers to.
Oh, I thought that was season 2.
I don't know, it's later.
Honestly,
I think it's 4. That show ran a long time.
Well, that show, and that was the only time I marked it as different. Of all the other seasons felt the same. Oh no, wait, yeah, there was each season had a villain that they had to fight. Like one was I think Forrest Whitaker came in and fucking owned the hospital for a minute.
That's right.
And then there was a one of the guy that a cop that he had fucked with at the opening episode. And
he had a serious opiate problem with Vicodin, and they kind of deal with that eventually.
That's how much the status quo doesn't change. That I've thought the second season was when they added in new residents. I was oh no.
I spent the whole first season of House really thinking that his best friend from Dead Poet Society wasn't real.
Sure.
Totally blanking on the name, Robert Sean Leonard. I honestly, me and a friend had a bet going as to
That'd have
whether,
been cool.
like week to week, like every week we were watching the episode of like, does his friend ever interact with anyone not House? I know he has an office, quote unquote, but like, does he actually talk to anyone else, or is this just like an office House doesn't use that he's supposed to?
Sure.
Turns out he was a real person.
Yeah.
On the show.
Yeah. Me and my other friend, we watched Buffy together, and we had a long-standing theory that Cordelia was the actual Hellmouth. Was she was the concentrated,
like the way Dawn's the key.
Like,
I honestly, I'd have been down for that
because everything kind of happened around her for a minute, like she was involved in the plots, and I was like, man. And then that theory stood for a lot longer than it should have. Like it only broke in like season 3.
Yeah, man. I'm still gonna retcon that. Yeah. I bet if we look, there's somewhere where she shook that curse off in the background.
Sure.
Somehow. This is where Cordy became a real person.
I'm no Superman. Superman.
I don't know about you, Les, but all that TV chat has put me in the mood for some of our own chat on TV from our watches. Let's get into the TV diaries.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
So what'd you watch this week, Les?
Well, watched the movie Basquiat, which I'd seen several times, but it came out in '96, I believe. Jeffrey Wright as Jean-Michel Basquiat, 80s painter. It's got a hell of a cast. Even though it's a period piece set in the 80s, it has a weirdly 90s style to its filmmaking when I watch it now. And partly, I'm sure, it was made in 96, 95, 96. It's when I saw it. But like watching it now, it's like, man, I remember this feeling very realistic, and it's just so not.
Okay.
it's a really still a very like sentimental and sweet movie, but it's very dreamlike to watch it now. It's got a great cast: Claire Forlani, Courtney Love's in it for a minute. It's got David Bowie as Warhol, which is up there with Tesla of like, where is my Bowie Warhol biopic? Like, where's my Bowie Tesla biopic?
Yeah, okay.
How dare you sons of bitches waste this? So that was a fun rewatch. Finally finished The Magicians. And I say this every time I do one of those rewatches. The show gets meta in the sense that the writers definitely know what tropes they've played with and like what they've done so far. And then in season 5, they accelerate all of it to the point of absurdity purposely. Like the finale episode, they have like one last quest to fulfill. And at one point, they're like, but how will we solve this bit of the problem in a plan? And Josh, one of the characters, goes, oh, I have a thing that I have a thingy, it's in the castle.
Okay.
And like literally like the person who's explaining the plan goes, cool, so you go get that. Anybody else have any follow-up questions for that? No? All right. And they just move on, and like later on they're like, they unroll a thing and like it does the thing they need to do.
Oh yeah, I have a
so like, oh yeah, I know, I got the key to the MacGuffin box. Like it's they're just running through it on like, and they know what they're fucking doing.
Like they just know they're on autopilot.
Like they've got one character who's just been a basically astral projected voyeur for like a century, and they finally like put him back with his body. Anyway, he's walking around just complaining about having to poop all the time now and how much he hates it.
He feels like Reed Richards at a certain point. Like, hey, Reed, do you have like, yeah, I built a whatever to fix what was it, an ultra dimensional problem? I don't know. Ever since the Ultimate Nullifier, everything's kind of been downhill.
Like the astral projection character, they just let him. Like he's the character that gets to start Abed like referring to everybody as characters because he's just been watching them like a soap opera, not having to eat or sleep for a century. And so like he's like, oh come on man, I get to be there when you guys hook up. Like I was shipping you guys before you even were.
I was
like,
shipping you.
No,
before.
you don't, dude. So yeah, they get the show wraps up great. You and I watched Elspeth episodes 2 and 3. Elspeth finally came back and dropped 2 episodes in a row. You can see the engine of the week. Like you can kind of see everybody thinks they would get away with it, and they normally would if not for the Mystery Machine. And no wait, it's not Scooby-Doo.
It's yeah.
They would get away with it if they would just be cool. These criminals have to, like, they walk in front of Elspeth, they get her attention on accident, and then they can't let it go.
Well, the third one was a moment of like a moment of passion crime, at least. Like it
Right,
was
at
clever.
least a little
It
different.
was a little more. You could understand the inherent sloppiness of it. But they're like the other ones were like, okay, it's a slick plan that you're that's too clever by half. Like it because it's so clever, it immediately like
It draws her suspicion. Yeah.
draws Elspeth's suspicion, which you didn't like. Honestly, for the cops, you didn't have to like put this much effort
Right.
into it.
Right. If she'd not been there, yeah, you'd have breezed straight past the normal cops. There is the background thing going to whatever she's really there to investigate, and that's cool. It's going to build us somewhere by the end of the season. But as far as
They haven't moved on it in plot wise.
No. As far as a show of the week, I haven't looked to see. I'm scared to. I kind of hope that this runs 22 episodes. This is a hangout with a perfectly fine mystery. Nobody's really invested in the particular legal case of the week on any given, legal episode of Law and Order or whatever. Like, you're there for the cops. You're there for hanging out with the cops every week.
Right. Well,
I'm here for hanging out with Carrie Preston as Elspeth every week.
I mean, they've treated her now like this show is actually very different than Good Wife and Good Fight.
Very, very much.
It almost has a surrealness, like the second episode with Tina Fey's partner in crime.
Yes, yeah, Jenna. I don't know the actress's name. Jenna from 30 Rock.
Yeah, she they go rock climbing together, and suddenly, while rock climbing, she's just asking her questions about the case, and
she looks away for a minute.
Like,
and
how are you
laps her?
How are you good at this? Like, the other person's like, she's a professional rock climber, and Elspeth's just keeping up. And then suddenly she gets to the top, and Elspeth is already there. Like,
you're right.
How
did you? Super fine.
How did you wait? How did you get there? She's next to it. Like, there's no way to
You can't have passed her out of her sight line.
Past without
doing it in a blazer.
She's like some sort of manic pixie. Like,
yeah, I absolutely love this character.
Even more so than
actress.
If Renegade Nell had Elsbeth as the fairy, like giving her powers or whatever, like I would probably be okay with it not making sense.
I never thought about Carrie Preston and Carol Kane in the same kind of
Sure.
league, but I can see it now. Like I could see Carrie Preston hitting Bill Murray with a toaster. I would watch that.
Sure.
Lisa and I kept on watching Fargo season 4, which this was the first Fargo season that I ever tried to get into, having not watched any of the others, and I didn't plug into it. But
right.
I had also not plugged into Fargo season 1. I think it being an anthology, even though they have a similar tone, similar humor, there's always going to be some absurdist, a little bit of supernatural. It's a bit like American Horror Story. There's a different cast and different people.
Well,
every season takes a couple episodes to be
okay,
who the fuck are these folks?
I walked into the room when you were watching it, and even though I didn't know what you were watching, I looked at him like, I don't know why, but I think this is Fargo, because it was none of the I had not seen that season. It was none of the characters I had seen, so I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel like this is.
And there's still fun nods. Somebody holds up a gang, like organized crime, like money collection place, and like walks in, and somebody gets off the line of you've got a panty on your head. Which is just a great fucking Raising Arizona callback.
Sure.
Also, in that robbery, somebody throws up an insane amount into the money bag as they're leaving with it, and then they can't get the smell off the money, which is just a hilarious Coen Brothers level thing. Because it comes back to bite them later when somebody
absolutely
has been to the scene of the crime, which smells.
Oh yeah.
And then opens up a bag of money and gets hit with the same smell.
You gotta check off that vomit, man.
Yeah, it's fucking great. It's just hilarious. Also, there's
if someone throws up in the first act, someone must find it in the third.
Tim Oliphant as a Mormon marshal. Off trying to find these fugitives.
Now shit, like I keep forgetting Tim Oliphant is in that season.
And you got to make it to like ep 3 to see him.
Okay,
2 or 3 to see him.
Like, so he's not a huge character.
Like once he appears, he won't go away. But that's kind of part of his gag is like his name. His nickname is Deafy, and like immediately like the other characters like, so you're deaf? No, I can see how you would think that, but no.
Okay.
I just tend to hear only what I want to. And sure enough, like when people will outright insult him or just say stuff he doesn't want to hear, and he'll just, huh? What? Like he just
what?
It's remarkable. I'm having binge watched all the rest of Fargo in a pretty short succession. I feel like despite being set in Kansas City, so far this is still Fargo, man. This is still the same DNA. same writers, same people. No, still Noah Hawley.
Mm-hmm.
If for whatever reason you didn't plug in the first couple of episodes with all the gang back and forth, it settles out and you really get to know the characters. I would go back and give season 4 a shot.
All right.
What else did I watch?
I mean, we watched the Furies.
Oh, that's right. Well, so we should start this journey here. We set out, as you may have remembered from last week, to watch Ripley on Netflix. I was a little I loved Talented Mr. Ripley when it came out. I thought it was a cool, creepy Casablanca style con man with a mean streak, kind of noir. I dug it when it came out. Shitload of awards, great movie. I'd seen Ripley's Game with John Malkovich, so I knew that there's been more done with this character, based off a novel. I really thought that they were doing, like if you hear a new Sherlock Holmes is coming out, you don't necessarily think it's going to be the same single Sherlock Holmes story you've ever heard.
Right.
So I was not expecting when we sat down to this for it to be the exact fucking story from the movie, just done in slower, more pretentiously, and by that I mean black and white.
Right. Well, I mean, the period piece element gives it an interesting feel. As far as, you know, I love the phones that are like that still take like a fucking nickel, like a slot and stuff like that. It gives it this noirish feel that you could probably get without the black and white. And I mean, Bokeem Woodbine as a private detective, amazing for the, I want to say 30 seconds he's in it.
Yeah, for the
first episode. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I can't even remember why he was looking for him in the beginning, or if that was...
Well, the only reason that we know he's running, in the first episode, we know that Andrew Scott's main character...
Oh, right,
he's running some kind of mail scam.
He hooked him up with the steel guy, like, to actually go find Dickie or whatever.
But there's an unshakable, like, did they tell me anything about this show so far, or is this only working because I know he's a scumbag because I've seen the other movies?
Well,
and know the story.
I'm bored when watching it that I keep, and during the scenes, I'm like, okay, what is this scene accomplishing? Are we getting anything done in this scene?
How else would you know that he got from one location to the next unless you showed him agonizingly take the bus?
Yeah, it shows him, like, honestly, he like, oh, here's the bus fare, and then it shows him hailing a cab, and I'm like, okay, he took the bus and is now hailing a cab to his final destination.
No, we see every fucking moment.
It was actually to the point, it was so particular, I was actually confused because most movies would skip this,
right.
And
so there's got to, like, I find myself constantly like, so there's got to be a reason that that you're showing me all this and everything, but I feel like I'm no-pricing my way through this. Like, I'm finding reasons why this works. This is the screenwriter and director, screenwriter now directing, who wrote Schindler's List. It's got a hell of a cinematography. Like, it looks fucking great, but I was bored shitless in the first episode and so annoyed at knowing that we're going to basically cover the same ground as the movie. It just made me want to go watch the movie. I like Andrew Scott, and this is plotting, and I'm
in a longer, like, in a just not significantly shorter length of time than the movie. We get to the point where he's like he's pretending to be Dickie in the mirror, right? And at that point I'm like, oh, you've barely met Dickie, and I have not gotten the idea of why. I've not gotten the idea you're obsessed with him or why you would be pretending to be him yet.
Or that this is a thing you do. Like, this is a jumping types of crime.
I honestly can't. I don't really know you as much, because all I've really done seen you do is travel, and you've scammed people over the phone or whatever.
But this is a jump.
And the rest of it is like, he's actually a pretty terrible con man. Like, he can't read people or be convincingly human in a conversation. And I think that's part of the je ne sais quoi of, like, honestly, the black and white. I immediately recognized what type of show this would be when it was like, oh, we're gonna do it all in black and white. Like, fuck you. And so I'm like, oh, that means it's gonna be boring and passed off as prestige and important. What's really weird is that a lot of shows and movies try and portray boredom in a weird way, like, and monotony, which is what I think they're trying to do with the traveling. And that's always like a thing. I'm like, I get you're trying to portray that, but don't actually bore your audience.
Right. So
You want to convey to the audience that your character is bored and this is monotonous for them. And that never comes off for Dickie. He doesn't feel bored.
No.
I'm bored.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Ripley should look like an Edgar Wright movie, but I kept thinking about the travel in the start of Hot Fuzz when he's moving cities, and he basically, like, you're watching a main character fall asleep almost holding a plant with his bags next to him, as like he keeps getting woke up by the transit change around him.
Right.
And like, that's granted, that's a really short, punchier kind of Edgar Wright type scene, but like there are ways to keep it exciting for me, but instill that feeling of like of losing time or losing, like monotony.
Well, even we watched
how many stairs did we watch Andrew Scott run in that first episode?
Oh my god. Well, he's not good at stairs apparently.
No.
And we watched for Patreon this week. We're going to talk about Monkey Man, and even Monkey Man has a scene in the first act where they portray a lot of like repetition of like it takes like a month or so for him to really like learn his plan for revenge or whatever, or like to enact it, and they do a great job, efficient storytelling of getting that across, how much time it takes, how much thought is going into it, while having the montage be basically like 2 minutes.
Just working. Yeah.
So
anyway, when Ripley episode 1 was a bust, we got done with that, and we're like, okay, let's find anything else. Like, God, we considered even watching Megamind Rules on Peacock, like anything else, because we're clearly not going to watch more Ripley. And we found the Furies on Netflix.
Yeah,
I feel like this show probably got the benefit of Netflix in the last couple of years buying up a ton of foreign shows, and you kind of using them to weather the strike last year. Furies is French, I believe.
Yeah, it's a French show.
It's got a real John Wick universe kind of vibe. Like this could have easily been the Continental.
I really liked that the
kind of 100 bullets type thing.
It felt as stylish as the Continental without being so up its own ass about it. Because the premise is really good. There's like
organized crime.
Like there's everyone has their own section of organized crime. Like there's the madam. There's the madam that runs prostitution. There's the guy that runs pickpocketing, and
there's the guy that just runs drugs.
And they all share like territory that no one encroaches on each other, because if they do, a arbiter comes down to basically pass judgment, and that is known as the Fury.
Yeah.
It's been passed down genetically,
mother to daughter. Yeah. Well, it turns out that at one point there'd been another family, and there had not been any kind of peacekeeper, and so the interfamily wars had gotten bad enough that somebody blew up an entire wedding, like killed everybody except the bride. And though she had, I thought it was cool in the narration, like though she had the right to exact revenge, she decided instead that she was done with killing, and that she became the first Fury.
Right.
That, like, it was basically like slap bet. Like, I'm gonna hold back my addition. Like, I have the right to kill all of you, but I'm not gonna do it right now. But I'm gonna turn that into my right to kill any of you if you fuck up in the future.
Yeah.
And then they pass that down, which is never a great idea, but it's always fun for stories like this.
Yeah, and it's our main character, like the main character, the girl that is
who gets roped into this, who doesn't know what's going on, but is clearly the scion of the Furies.
The daughter, like her parents get killed by an assassin that they think is the Fury. So has her tracked down. The main character is the right amount of. She actually has a great idea, plan, and is pretty slick most of the time, but also is not used to the criminal organization, so really gets her ass kicked a lot.
There's some great moments when she manages to find the Fury, who she thinks killed her dad, and her dad is a top level money launderer, so not a great guy. But she's breaking into the Fury's house, sneaking around, and the Fury calls her cell phone, which rings. Hey. And so from another room, you hear the Fury yell, "Hey, so turn your phone off." When you're breaking into people's homes,
you should be on silent when you're.
That's a free tip you could do. You just take that and do whatever you want with it.
And honestly, like, man, she has this boyfriend cop that is so nice, and I was like, man, you have to mercy kill this relationship. You got to take it out in the back.
I think we watched through the 5th episode, and she finally does.
Finally does.
Yeah.
And it was the cinematography of the show is really great. The fights are really cool.
Dude, the fights are fun.
There's this segment where they have an overhead shot where a guy breaks into her apartment.
Yes.
But the cop boyfriend is there. And this guy, he's a big dude. And he's kind of like the Furies fixer. That's what his name is.
His name is Fixer.
And it's a great, I've never seen it before, but it's a really great way to show a guy that's very, very good at his job without having to resort to violence. It's very casual.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he is calmly and casually just rifling through things, going through stuff, always kind of half got an eye on where the boyfriend is. The camera goes from above and like there's no ceiling on this built set. And every time the boyfriend starts to come around a wall, the dude just calmly.
It's like he's like water. He just perfectly.
It's like watching somebody hide behind a tree. Like you're on one side of a tree and somebody just keeps moving perfectly with you, so you can't see him.
And it's
wild.
And the camera gets across that it's not luck. Like he is he's very intentionally
he's very good at this
because he's he's not nervous about it. He's just like, I've done this a lot. Like, there's a lot of moments like that in this show, and I really want to finish it out. I feel like if it was not foreign, like if it was not French,
we did watch it subbed. Dubbed, not
people
subbed.
I would have heard of this show.
Absolutely,
if it was not
absolutely
in French.
It's the kind of thing I can't believe hasn't just been remade. If it weren't John Wickish, I'm amazed they just haven't made it in English yet.
Also, someone gets electrocuted in breast milk, so.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So yeah, The Furies over on Netflix. If you were watching Ripley.
Just in case you were wondering how weird it gets.
You wake up and you're like, oh man, can't believe I was watching Ripley and I fell asleep. Flip over to Furies. It's super fucking fun. Well, I think that's about all I watched. Now feels like a good time to mention that if you haven't joined us over on patreon.com/tvdudes, you can throw down $1 an episode, get bonus content every single...
Oh, shit.
I forgot. X-Men 97, Les.
Ooh, okay. So, pause right here. Spoiler warning for this week's X-Men 97. If you've not watched it, you might want to skip ahead just a little bit. Should have the time codes in the description. Okay. Spoiler warning aside. X-Men 97, no!
So, man, so last week it was a half and half episode, and I enjoyed the first half while it being kind of just a nothing Jubilee kind of like running through the highlights. And then I really didn't like the
life death.
I really didn't like the half of the Aurora and Forge thing of like, oh, this is all stiff and weird and not fun like I wanted it to be.
No. And then honestly, I would say that this week's episode was half and half as well.
Oh, well, they run through things that I'm like, it feels like a continuation of the 97. It obviously is, but sometimes it feels like they don't really know what happened in the previous show, or they're trying to retcon some stuff. Because Magneto comes like when they come to like Genosha is like, oh, what a beautiful, fantastic place. Look at it. I'm like, we've seen Genosha before a year ago. Like the last episode of the previous series showed Genosha, and it was a fucking kind of hellhole. It did not look like this.
Yeah.
And so I think they've retconned what Genosha is a little bit.
I think.
And
somebody fact check us if we're wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they've retconned Genosha.
And Magneto is surprised that they want him to be their spokesperson.
Why
is
he
leader.
Surprised by that?
I was thinking to myself, Magneto, didn't you run this place a year ago?
Like, isn't this only exist because
of you?
Right?
Weren't you king a year ago?
His face is already on like all the pennants and shit. Is like freedom.
Yeah. And so
he's stunned.
And he's stunned about it. Like, oh, okay.
And he asks Rogue to be his queen.
Yeah, which again, I'm not sure I'm crazy about that whole relationship. She finally comes clean about it.
Yeah.
To Gambit, and basically like tells Gambit like just finally in frustration, like, I can't touch you, Gambit.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like we can't. Like, what kind of relationship?
Somebody online point out of like, hey man, I don't want to scar Leech for life or anything, but can he not like stand outside the door while y'all have, like some mom and dad time?
Man, I love Leech. Leech is the poster boy for the Morlocks. Like,
yeah, I don't mean to scar Leech for life or anything, but like figure his power out and like help Rogue. And also they don't explain why her. Like, so how does can they turn Leech's shit off sometimes?
Why does does Magneto's powers negate Rogue's power?
They just have in the comics. They just do.
Also, there's the fucking soap opera ishness of it. Like, Gene is mad at Scott because he's having an emotional affair with
because he has a
previous
psychic
clone.
link with clone Gene.
Because that's
our thing.
Clone Gene did birth his son.
Right.
Like,
oh, man. So
he should not have lied about it, but you have to like, hey man, it's confusing to me.
The TV interview where he has to clarify that he and Gene don't have children.
Well, I mean, and he fucking flubs that. Like, honestly, that was the most relatable Cyclops has been in a minute.
And also an incredibly awkward bit of dialogue. Like the whole first half of this episode, I was sitting through it going, man, I love the animation and I love the X-Men and I love seeing these stories, but we're just like the 90s cartoon. Is this bad?
Honestly,
I hate this.
I've watched
this dialogue is stiff and terrible.
I've watched the 90s cartoon though. I went back and watched some of it, and while it's not great, it's the 90s X-Men. Like, it's not. I feel like it's worse
this thing
now.
feels like it skips sentences. Or
I feel like that they've cranked it up. Someone has like, oh, it should sound like they're trying to do an impression of what the 90s show sound like. And you know, when you do an impression, you highlight the things like no one does a Christopher Walken, like actually talks like Christopher Walken.
Right.
They over enunciate the pauses.
This thing almost hits Twin Peaks level of like,
the dialogue sucks. It's really bad. And Jean, while she's mad at Scott, I'm like, hey Jean, I don't mean to like fucking nitpick you here, but like 5 minutes ago you kissed Logan.
Right. Like just a few minutes ago. Man, Logan's come back to that of like, hey, nope, you're Jean Grey, he's Scott Summers, them's the rules.
Them's the rules. You just forgot for a second.
I'm like, oh man, Logan, damn.
Well, and Logan should be like, he's like Logan kind of wanted that to happen, and yet like,
but also was like, no,
but also like, no, I shouldn't. I'm like, well then fuck Logan, you like Wolverine, you got to pick a fucking lane here, man. And Jean, obviously it's also time has passed. Like, it was like, oh, it's been a month or months or so, which I have not felt, but like, Madeline Pryor has been in Genosha for a minute. Right. Is on the council, like, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah. So that's all the stuff that drove me a little bit nuts this episode and about the show in general. Stuff that I dig, I saw pointed out the other day, the intro keeps changing a little bit each episode. Mm-hmm. So in the very first episode from X-Men 97, in the intro, Jean's got her hair down.
Yeah.
Instead of in the ponytail like in the original thing, right? That's Madeline.
Okay.
Now that they've revealed that and Madeline's gone and it's Jean, the intro is different and she has her ponytail again.
Got it. Okay.
And like, there's a lot of little tiny things, and I started noticing it throughout this episode that like whenever we see Madeline, her hair's down. Whenever we see Jean now, when she's in the same room as Madeline, her hair's up.
Got it.
And like, there's like weird little. I enjoy that they keep changing and tweaking the intro. Magneto's in it now. Like who's where is. Fun little Easter eggs. Honestly, I always love that in Fringe. I love when shows do that shit.
And that's an interesting, it's actually an interesting relationship thing of like, Scott is like, hey, you are both the same person. You have the memories of the same. She's the
neither of you are quite sure which memories.
She's the physical one I've been with for a year. I don't know when you got replaced. Mm-hmm. Like, I technically love you both, and it's like, you didn't have a child with me. Right. Like, you might remember, like you. That's one of the things you don't remember. I forget how far her memory goes.
Yeah, it's weird.
No, they downloaded memories. She downloaded her memories of the clone, so they have the same memories now. But yeah, like, it's one of those things that if the dialogue was not so on the nose and stiff, I feel like that would be a better.
Speaking of weird moments of like, have we all seen the same older show? When Cable appears to tell them that shit's about to go down in Genosha, we've met Cable before. She's met Cable before. Mm-hmm. I assume that her line of "your eyes, you did make it." I assume that that's just because she now has new memories of meeting the baby. Sure.
Or,
but it was a weird line delivery.
Well, honestly, it's Madeline, so she actually had the baby.
That's right.
Madeline is the physical clone that's been there, the physical one that's been there.
Had she not met Cable in the original one, was that Jean that met adult Cable in the 90s cartoon? So had Madeline never met adult Cable before?
Yeah, but she has the memories of meeting Cable.
That's true. It's fucking X-Men. God
so, damn it. And what you had said that maybe they're trying to reveal that like it's different when you've actually had the kid rather than a potential child. And I'm like, oh yeah, and that's a potential future. Right. So maybe Cable would be.
But again, I feel like I'm no prize in my way through this.
But again, it feels like it feels like Cable has just appeared and she has no idea, like, oh, my son. Like, okay.
So Cable appears to warn them that shit's about to hit the fan, and then it does.
Man, I love that it actually says body slide.
Right.
Like, that was his...
And he, so when stuff goes off, the Bo DeMeo, the now fired, or like whatever happened, showrunner, has spoken up about this episode. I saw a thing of like, he's spoken up about the fire. No, he did not speak up about the firing or the letting go or whatever. But he did speak up about this episode and said he straight up wanted to give the mutants a 9/11 moment. Like, he wanted it to just be breathtakingly, like, scary. The way that the Sentinels felt when you first saw them when you were a kid in the comics.
Right, which means some people are going to have to get seriously hurt and get killed.
And granted, they're X-Men. Nobody's ever dead.
Honestly, that's what I was impressed by with this episode, was because I've seen X-Men die a lot, to the point where it's kind of
a running joke.
Just doesn't really...
They make it.
Doesn't really fucking phase you anymore. So when it happens here, I actually kind of felt it. Even Nightcrawler, I was like, shit, like, and they said like, oh, Nightcrawler he's all right, he's fine. I'm like, oh, okay, because you looked pretty fucking...
Also, man, I loved Rogue reaching down to check his pulse and realizing she can't.
I also can't... Yeah, that
was fun.
Again, without the things they show and don't say.
Right.
Great moments. Great moments.
Yeah,
but
Remy getting his moment of energizing a whole Sentinel was fucking awesome.
Well, I also knew that, like, at first I thought he was going to energize himself and like blow up, but
he
like,
can't do organic matter.
Yeah, and I was like, oh right, that's not his power.
Yeah.
But like, oh, he can't do anything that big, or he'll like
it's can't. There's a reason why he didn't do this at the start of the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, what a great moment for him. Rogue's line of I can't feel you, like,
oh, man,
like,
done.
I like that her powers,
black screen.
Her powers, like, if she can touch you, it's because you're fucking already dead.
Yes,
like, it doesn't affect you if you're dead.
When she can hold him.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. That's like, she can finally touch Gambit after he's passed. And
man, that's fucking brutal. This is why we watch read X-Men, dude. This is fuck.
And Magneto, at least looking like he bit it. I doubt, like,
there's no way.
I mean,
if anything, they drove him to the center of the earth holding Leech.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a weird thing to okay, Magneto's the leader of the X-Men for 2 episodes, and then we get rid of it. Like, although he was going to be, I don't know how his leader of the X-Men thing was going to work with being leader of Genosha anyway.
I don't either. That that part was weird. And so as always, the show is a mixed bag, but honestly, it's more good than bad by a mile.
Right. Well,
and it's bringing the X-Men back into main conversation. I want them in the Marvel MCU.
I can't tell if Calypso or Callisto, what was her name?
The
Morlock Queen. Yeah. I can't tell if she's dead or not. Like, everyone on those grounds or whatever, like, I didn't know if they were... Seemed like everyone that got killed got, like, fucking vaporized.
Dude. Yeah, people were just getting fucking vaporized. Glob Herman made an appearance.
Really?
The blobby purple dude or pink dude with the skeleton floating and guts floating in him. That's a character named Blob Herman.
Well, they did a moment when they first hit Genosha that, like, they showed a bunch of the mutants and Morlocks that don't usually get a lot of screen time.
Yeah, that was... I honestly wanted to... I tried to pause.
I think we saw Multiple Man for a minute.
Glob Herman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He's fucking awesome.
Saw Multiple Man for a minute, and then I think Dazzler was also there.
Right. And man, the guy with the big gold headdress thing, and I cannot remember his name. He was just on Krakoa in an issue I was reading, and I can't remember his name. Of course, you can't screen grab off of Disney Plus's site. It just blacks the screen out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of want to find a breakdown of like everybody in Genosha, because you know that's a deep bench background of just weird mutants. Also, every single time there's a mutant homeland, man, a core mutant value beyond freedom, beyond justice, horniness.
Mm-hmm.
Every mutant homeland is the horniest place on Earth, man. Like, Krakoa was particularly horny.
Well, now that it's an allegory for queer.
Yeah, right. Man, like the
LGBTQ
Genosha
stuff.
Utopia blend they're doing here is like everybody there was getting down.
I'm like, yeah, like, okay, if Genosha is just a large gay club, like, yeah, like, right. Now I feel
just
it.
Keeping this party going.
Hell yeah. But yeah, the fight was really good. Magneto using a train like a whip, fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And Although I don't know why he didn't just throw the actual Sentinel, since it's made of metal. But again, deeply don't understand.
I
how
have to
work.
assume that that the Sentinels are somehow specifically, I don't know, they're platinum. You know,
Sure.
like you can't earthbend them or something.
Yeah, but Gambit can light him up.
Can light him up, sure. Maybe you had to push so hard to hurt him.
There's a point where it's also like the
Take my no prize
90s
now.
cartoon where like, oh, someone's super powerful until they're not. Yeah.
Yes, until we need him to not be.
Because honestly, Magneto, since he's become leader of the X-Men, all he's been doing is taking some L's. Like he had that moment where like where he threatens the UN, like the UN, the nation or whatever. But he lost to Jean Grey or the Goblin Queen.
Mhm.
He loses to the Sentinel. Like
No, he just keeps taking L's. Yeah.
And-
It's weird.
and I was like, oh, because he's joined the good guys now.
That's right.
Like
He's gonna. Yeah, you won't get his mojo back until.
it's like, sorry, like no, if you're part of the good guys, we just get our asses kicked for a minute and then we win.
Right.
Like unlike you, because remember when you were a bad guy, where you would kick our asses for a while, but then at the end you'd always fuck up. Like that's just how it rolls, man. Okay, now I feel like it might be the perfect moment to remind everyone that you can get, support the TV Dudes at patreon.com/tvdudes. You only get charged for the bonus eps, so for $4 a month, you'll get double the pod. This week, we're going to the movies with Dave Patel in Monkey Man.
But that's all over on patreon.com/tvdudes. For our main course this week, let's dive into the return of Chucky Season 3 over on Peacock, or Sci-Fi, or USA, or, wherever you watch it.
You ever feel like the thrill is gone? What's the point? Now I gotta clean this up. I'm dying, Tiff. Who would have thought it would all end like this?
Chucky, you're a cockroach. You always come back.
Not this time.
Don't you want to go down in history as the greatest serial killer of all time?
You're right. Whoever's left when the dust settles will always remember one name. Where the is Chucky?
Something is happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, something very serious.
What we're dealing with is supernatural. The spirits are trying to warn you about Chucky.
He's dying for good this time.
He's the only one who knows where my sister is.
We have to hurry. Chucky's out for blood.
Charles Lee Ray. We all live on one side of the knife or the other. It's just that my side is a lot more fun.
Your family is in danger.
Hey, we're the heroes, remember?
Now, I'm going for the noose!
Dan!
My name is Chucky! Oh, I just love a good sequel. Don't you?
Yeah, so Chucky back after a long hiatus, but not as long as we thought it was going to be.
It was not. I assumed that there would not be Chucky until Halloween, and honestly, that's on me. I had not even been checking to see what we've been doing here. So this season is going to be 8 episodes long. Chucky is he's at the White House this season. Devon Sawa back because they love their returning cast. Devon Sawa's the president this season. Chucky's been murdering people around the White House because he's lost his favor with Damballa, the most effective magic god in any horror franchise ever.
Damballa delivers, baby.
Man, Damballa comes through, except when you piss him off. Chucky now has Catholic cancer. You heard me right.
That actual line in the show.
Yes,
fucking
because of
amazing.
A botched exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
You got Catholic cancer, what blew up Devon Sawa last season. Everybody's got to watch Chucky, man. This show's fantastic. Anyway, Chucky's been trying to murder people at the White House to complete a ritual. Fucked it up. He's now aging. And I mean, he's turned into like a wrinkled old man with liver spots, and he's creepy looking as a doll. In the meantime, Tiffany is actually in the body of Jennifer Tilly, and Jennifer Tilly, the human body, is on death row.
Right, from the crimes from the last season.
But she has the favor of Damballa and is now like the most effective like voodoo doll priestess in prison. And she is fucking people up.
And she's working on her way to bust out before her execution date.
I am ecstatic that this show is back. We had planned to talk about Ripley, then we swapped that for Furies. Furies is great. We were planning to talk about it. And then chuck all that, y'all. Chucky's back.
Man, and even this episode I thought was not one of the great episodes. Like it's
good, but it had to get back into the groove.
And it spends a lot of time on setup and basically convincing a lot of the White House characters that a haunting is now taking place.
Right, and I think that's separate from Chucky, but I don't quite know what's going on there. I'm eager to see if his ritual awoke something.
Yeah, I think his ritual awoke something. It didn't do what he wanted, but it doesn't mean it didn't do anything.
In the meantime, every time you might be even slightly bored, you usually get old doll Chucky on screen, and that thing is
I love that
jaw-dropping every time.
When he's bored, he just kills people.
Also, Chucky dealing with an existential crisis of feeling old and bored with killing.
Yeah, like, do you ever feel like the thrill is gone?
Like, Tiffany has to yell at him of like, you're dying in the White House. You have the opportunity to go down in history.
And so,
man, then he does.
Man, oh man. So yeah, like, by the end of this, like, oh, why don't we just leave Chucky to die then? Like, this is just going to take care of itself. And I'm like, Chucky with the nuclear codes. That's why you don't like. That's why you got to get on
Chucky's
this.
Running around with the presidential pin and the nuclear codes, and
like
in the meantime, Lexi's trying to mend fences with the first son, who's everybody's into the White House to go stop Chucky, and we get Jake and Devin. Is it Devin?
Yeah.
On a road trip to go try to get some piece of a plan to stop Chucky later, and we realize immediately that they have to stay in a motel room on this road trip. As soon as they go in, they have a moment where they turn and like lock the door and realize like this is the first time that they've not been, nobody's chasing them, nobody's trying to murder them.
They're not in one of their parents' houses or foster parents.
Squatting.
They're not in the school, Catholic school, or a dorm.
They're in a room they've rented with the lock on the door and a whole day to So they're not virgins anymore.
Right.
I'm
not sure if they were virgins beforehand.
I don't know. I think they're not now.
I'm sure, but if they had not slept together before, but
they've definitely hooked up now. And so
the actor who plays Jake, I forgot. Like, he's surprisingly
he got ripped this season.
Cut, and I think we mentioned that like the last time
we did. Jake broke out the gun show. He got
Hugh
Jakeman over here.
So yeah, that was a cute moment. The kid that Chucky is like chumping is trying to take care of him.
Yeah. That kid starts hallucinating ghosts in the White House. Everybody starts hallucinating ghosts in the White House. All the Chucky kills. People just keep seeing them repeated. That kid seeing that eyeball blink at him on the wall, that was pretty great.
There's even the great meta moment where Chucky is watching other killer doll movies.
Yes.
He's watching Dead Silence.
He watches Dead Silence. He watches The Boy.
The Boy, that's the one. Like, it was like, this is stupid. And then the Megan. Capper is the Megan, where he just like what? She's stole my move.
Fuck you, M3gan.
Mathregan or whatever he said. Like,
fuck you, Mathregan. Yeah. Oh man, I loved it. It was fucking great. Chucky's this show. I'm so glad it's back. Everybody needs to watch it. It is. I'm no joke. It is the most true to itself, best thing on television as far as like going full bore. It's what I dream shows like Mrs. Davis and shit will be when I sit down to watch them. Of like, this seems off the wall wacky. How did this get greenlit? Maybe it's going to stay insanely true to its own weird internal logic. And no, it's very rare that I get a show as purely itself as Davy and Jonesy or Chucky. Chucky's
there are a few shows where I'm like, no notes.
Perfect. You guys know exactly what you're doing.
No, greatly enjoy the return.
Also, I'm so glad that they have reconsidered their bullshit of only showing this on Sci-Fi. And whatnot, USA or whatever. I was ready to go figure out how to buy some credits or something, but it's actually on Peacock. which, you know, if you're trying to figure out how to merge your streaming network with another streaming network to be profitable, maybe merge your own content first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just an idea.
Also, what is the like? We got to go back and watch the first couple episodes.
Oh,
but
man.
what is the deal with the security chiefs? He's so weird.
He's so weird. The White House plumber looking dude.
Yeah, and I was like, he's not in on it with Chucky. We haven't seen any of that. Just because which I thought at first, but like he's definitely so weird. And then he's the one that's convinced it's a supernatural haunting, and doesn't convince the first lady until they see ghost strangled by an American flag.
Was that like the third episode killing or something? Yeah,
that was it was the second episode. Yeah,
second episode.
The teacher bites it really early, which kind of made me sad. Like I actually liked that character.
No, I was really surprised, but yeah, she also looks a lot like the actress playing the first lady to me, and so maybe they just were trying to clear that up. I don't know. Either way, I'm so happy the show's back. Way before Halloween. Like, talk about great early birthday present for us. Like,
indeed.
Yeah, fucking awesome. Everybody go watch Chucky. It's on Peacock right now. But I think that's all for us for now. Why don't y'all tune in next week, and we're going to talk about Fallout. I feel pretty sure that we're going to really talk about Fallout. I don't really see any world where Fallout is not watchable all the way to the end, and at least cause you to rant about it.
Come on, Walton Goggins without a nose? I'm into it.
Honestly, it's always been that dude's problem. Like, I like Walton Goggins, but the nose.
Yeah, and you just removing it. Like,
just you take the nose clean off that dude, and boom. It's the Tyrion Lannister that we should have had from the books. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I love it when you make Game of Thrones references. You have like, oh yeah, I've heard of this thing.
I casually know my Games of Thrones.
Well,
I'm all about Throne Game.
Yeah. Don't forget to head over to patreon.com/tvdudes to hear what we thought of Monkey Man.
Indeed. And until next time,
Dudes out!